and making it more infective and more harmful. Now behind that, there's a potential benefit, right? If science could stay in front of a virus, just right in front of it, we would have a one-upmanship on dealing with it. The problem is what happens when you're not just one-upping the virus, but you're leaping it by hundreds or thousands of years, which is not something you should expect to need to address naturally. Research in this country dates back to 1999 when the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services began putting money into understanding these viruses and gain-of-function research. It's been going on for a while. In 2000, a gentleman by the name of Ralph Baric, Professor Ralph Baric at the University of North Carolina, who gets money from Peter Daszak of EcoHealth, who gets money from our federal government, Dr. Baric began working with these coronaviruses, and he successfully used reverse genetics. That should send a slight alarm bell off into your head, where he went and rescued what's called coronavirus urbani and made a very infectious clone. That was back in 2000. In 2002, 2 years later, Baric, Young, and Curtis, all at the University of North Carolina, got a patent for chimeric DNA. Now, if you see little asterisks up here, you'll find something down at the bottom, because a researcher like myself will tell you exactly where my statement's coming from. That's what backs it up. You can go read it. You don't have to take my word for it. Some of these you might want to get somebody else to help you interpret, but you can read it. A chimer means you take parts of one animal and you combine it with parts of another animal. That's our term for what translates into gain of function, because these things aren't naturally occurring. Here's the NIH grant that paid for this. Many of you are probably painfully familiar with Senator Rand Paul and Senator Kennedy asking questions of, who is that? Dr. Fauci. Asking about gain-of-function research. Anything that says that NIH, recognizing that NIAID, the National Institutes of Allergies and Infectious Diseases, is under the umbrella of NIH. Okay? So anything that happens at NIH and anything that happens in NIAID, these things are connected. And when you get the full backstory, you'll realize that Dr. Fauci was on committees that had to oversee gain-of-function research. So when he says we didn't fund it, we didn't provide it, okay, you be the judge. Red pill, blue pill. NIH grant. This was 2002. In 2002, Dr. Shi Zhengli, anybody recognize that name, of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, stated that she combined HIV pseudovirus with SARS-CoV-1. Okay? In 2003, at Chapel Hill, Baric, with an NIH grant affiliated with NIAID, began synthetically altering coronaviridae. That's coronavirus. That's the family of coronavirus, viridae. In 2006, you will discover, if you go read that paper, that the Chinese put together 4 viruses: HIV-1, hepatitis C virus. In 2006, they identified it as SARS-CoV-1 and SARS-CoV-2. They used PCR testing to prove that that's what they had. The interesting thing about the PCR testing that they did is they followed Kary Mullis, who got the patent for PCR tests. And what Dr. Mullis said was that you stop PCR testing at 20 cycles. And that's what his patent said, because anything more causes you to artificially induce things that really aren't real. And at 20 cycles, you will find everything that's really there. Interesting note, Dr. Mullis was the last person to take on Anthony Fauci. Dr. Mullis is dead. He died from a pneumonia in November of 2019. A very healthy man with no prior health problems who took on Anthony Fauci is now dead. In 2007, the National Science Foundation did a research project looking at what do you do if you think that there's going to be a pandemic. How do we react? And the answer to that research study, paid for by your funds, was to immediately shut down international travel. Now, the head of the NIAID, who should have been aware of a federally funded research project asking the question, what do you do, told the President of the United States, don't shut down international travel. So he was either unaware of the paper, didn't understand the paper, or knew about it, and didn't say anything. If you can think of a fourth option, please let me know. In 2011, scientific community got worried about gain of function because from the University of Wisconsin and from labs in the Netherlands, a gain of function virus that was extremely infective got transferred out by accident along with less lethal forms of the virus and got sent around the world. Scientific community got a little stressed out about that. In 2013, the Middle East respiratory virus, which is also a coronavirus, showed up on the scenes in Saudi Arabia and South Korea and provided us a couple lessons. First off, it was extremely lethal. And secondly, if you didn't want people to die, you had to treat it with multiple drugs immediately. And rhesus macaques, those are animal models that you do in things, you do animal models before you do human models in research, showed what to do. Varick and Chinese scientists also in 2013 isolated 3 corona vats with an HKU4 spike protein, which was unable to infect people. Keep that in mind. The HKU4 was unable to infect people. In 2014, our CDC accidentally exposed its workers to anthrax. It also released this deadly virus, and the NIH discovered vials of smallpox that had been sitting around for 50 years that people had forgotten about. And that resulted in the Obama administration calling a halt to gain-of-function research under pressure by the scientific community. Because if you remember it, it was something you heard about after the fact, after the scientific community got stressed out. So when you're thinking all scientists are bad, we're not. When you're thinking all doctors are bad, we're not. When you think all attorneys are bad, we're not. But some are. In 2015, remember HKU4? Not infective in humans? In 2015, Zheng Li altered it, intentionally changed 2 mutation sites and caused the virus to be extremely infective. This was not a naturally occurring process. She wrote in the paper that she did it. And wait a minute, it was paid for by NIH grants. In 2017, they lifted the gain-of-function ban. Now, during this time, there were people who were getting gain-of-function research. And Dr. Anthony Fauci was one of the people who helped determine who got funded during a time when Obama said, no more. In 2018,